Hey everyone, this is Professor Leis. In this video, I'm going to read through and explain the prompt for Major Essay Project number 2. Just a little bit of a heads up, if you'd like to print the prompt out, you can click on this link, which will then take you to the Google Doc where I have it, and you can print it out. It'll be in a nice printable format. Otherwise, it's right here. Let me read through this and I'll explain as we go through. In an essay of at least 4 full pages, identify a local group within the college or community that you have never been a member of but may be interested in joining. Once you have chosen a group, you will identify and analyze both a meaningful value that the group holds in common and the way the group demonstrates that shared value. So in Major Essay Project number 1, we were challenged to identify our most important value for ourselves and demonstrate how our experiences, our personal history have led to the development of that particular value. In this essay, we're turning our attention outward. So we're looking at how values, the guiding principles that influence the way we live, how those values can help coalesce people into groups in order to demonstrate that value, put it into action, so to speak. So what you'd want to do, you'll want to find a local group, such as a club or an organization, either within the college itself, so it could be affiliated with Cerritos College, so a club on campus or some sort of organization on campus or group on campus, or it could be a group in your community. So whether that's in the city you live in or kind of the LA area more broadly, or Southern California even more broadly than that. Some sort of organization that you have an interest in, something that you would potentially be interested in joining, but that you're not already a member of. And the reason for that, we want to make sure that you are employing your research skills or practicing your research skills. So you're going to need to conduct research on this club or organization or group in order to learn what it does, the types of activities, the events, the different work that the group does, to determine what the shared value of its members are. So what the core value of this group is and how they express that value through the work that they do. So let's continue on. To complete this essay successfully, you will need to conduct research on your selected group. Does the group have a website? What can you learn about this group from this website? Does the group have a presence on social media? In many cases, it may be appropriate to contact a member of this group to conduct an interview. Because you will need to include specific examples and textual evidence in your essay, be sure to select a group about which there is plenty of available information. So this is really important. Make sure that the group you select does have some sort of presence online. This is really important, especially now during the pandemic, when most groups are not able to actually meet in person or do the normal work that they may have done before the pandemic. So in order to learn about this group, you'll need to conduct online research. So through their website, through their social media presence, maybe they have an Instagram account or TikTok or some other sort of social media presence. What can you learn about the group through that? And in many cases, it might be appropriate to actually reach out to the group to see if you could set up an interview of some kind, whether that's through email or maybe even a phone or video interview, just so that you can gather more information about the group. Now, that's not necessary to do, but in some cases it might be appropriate, especially if there's maybe not so much information available just on their website. However, just to make sure that you're not left with not enough information about this group, make sure that whatever group you end up deciding on does have a lot of available information out there for you. This project is your chance to put into practice all of the concepts we've been reading and learning about so far this term. Be sure to review your notes and reread important selections we've covered from Habits of the Creative Mind. Resist your familiar habits and practices as writers. Try something new and exciting. Follow your curiosity, take risks, and attempt to have fun while composing this essay. So these are the things that I encourage all of my students to do whenever embarking on a new essay project to try to keep these things in mind. Try new things in the way that you're approaching your writing. Try to resist those old familiar habits, especially if they're carryovers from the 5-paragraph essay structure. Follow your curiosity. Take risks, so try new things in your writing. And again, I don't mean this sarcastically, really attempt to have fun while composing this essay. And that's why it's important to choose a group that you really care about, you're interested in, you would potentially enjoy being a member of this group if you were to actually join it. So make sure that it is something that does catch your interest, because ultimately that's going to make for a more rewarding experience, not only for you, but for your readers, because that will translate in the writing itself, your enthusiasm for the topic. Okay, so let's take a look at the different challenges we are facing in this major essay project. Many of these will look familiar because they were also challenges we were facing in major essay project number 1, but we've added a few things to consider in this. So for this major essay project, we're challenged to write an essay with a coherent and purposeful structure and organization that resists the limiting nature of the 5-paragraph essay, employing strategies we learned in On Structure. Now, just a little note here. This does not mean that we should quote from Habits of the Creative Mind. Rather, we should strive to use the strategies outlined in this section to help with our organization and structure. So what I mean by this challenge, I'm not asking you to actually talk about this essay from Habits of the Creative Mind on structure. I'm asking you to actually apply the strategies you learned from that particular essay to the writing of this essay project, right? So what did Miller and Jurecic talk about in On Structure and the other essays that we've been reading from Habits of the Creative Mind that we can apply to our process of writing? So in this case, this particular instance, thinking about structure and organization. How can we structure and organize our essay effectively? We're challenged to include specific and relevant examples and textual evidence to help develop a central point. So this is really important. For this particular essay, we're going to need to have specific quotations. So in most cases, those quotations will come from the group's website or social media presence, or if you conducted an interview with one of the members, you could also include that, use that as textual evidence quotations in your writing. But you'll also definitely need to include specific and relevant examples of the types of activities and work that this group does, and explain how those different activities and that work demonstrates that core value that unites all the members together. We're challenged to integrate quotations effectively using signal phrases and providing context for our readers. So for this major essay project, since we are now working with quoted material, there are a few different strategies that can help us integrate quotations effectively, and we'll go over that. There's actually a document that I created called Integrating Quotations. So we'll want to try to incorporate those strategies into the way that we're including quotations in our writing. We're challenged to write at least 8 purposeful and organized paragraphs, each one focusing on a distinct point or idea that helps develop the overall point of the essay. So in the first major essay project, we were challenged to write at least 7 purposeful paragraphs. In this one, we're increasing that number to 8, at least 8. You can write more than 8, and I encourage you to break out of that mold. But this is one of the mechanisms that we're building into the essay itself to break us out of that 5-paragraph essay structure. So we need to have at least a minimum of 8 purposeful and organized paragraphs. You can have more than 8, but definitely no fewer than 8. We're challenged to treat paragraphs as a unified progression of ideas rather than disconnected items in a list. So a unified progression of ideas, unified means that everything is connected to a single mission, right? So we're challenged to make sure that all of the paragraphs we've included in our essay are all connected to that single mission that we're trying to accomplish in this essay. And each paragraph leads into the one that follows. They're all connected. Think of it as each of the paragraphs as a link in a chain, right? So each paragraph needs to be connected to the paragraph that came before it and the one that comes after it, and progressing toward that meaning. We're challenged to show a strong awareness of our audience or our readers. So in other words, we want to make sure that we're anticipating the expectations and meeting those expectations of our readers for what type of writing situation this is. Keep in mind that this is an essay that we are writing in a college English course or a college writing course. So we want to make sure that we're paying attention to the way that we're composing it. We're not just composing it like an informal blog post or some letter to our friend or something. That's not the right situation, right? We want to make sure that we are showing awareness for the type of reader that we're going to have for this essay and writing our paper accordingly, meeting those expectations. We're challenged to have a conclusion that does not simply summarize the main point, but instead addresses the so what question. In other words, we have a few questions here to think about to address that so what question. Why do these ideas matter? What's the overall significance? What can the reader take away from this essay, or what can they learn from this essay? So that's what an effective conclusion will do. It will underscore the importance of these ideas. In the 5-paragraph essay model, we would just summarize what our essay was about. But you can trust your reader to remember the points that you discussed or that they read in your essay, right? We want to move beyond that and compose our conclusions in a much more sophisticated way. And so that sophistication, one way to demonstrate that is to address that so what question. Why does this matter? We're challenged to create a purposeful title that alludes to the focus of the essay. So in other words, our title should indicate what our essay is about. It should not be titled Essay Number 2 or something along those lines. It definitely should be a creative title that gives an indication of what the main point of your essay is. The title is the first thing that your reader will read, so titles are important. Don't just throw it away. Don't just treat it like it's not important, because it is. We're challenged to show ownership and pride over our work, taking care to eliminate major or distracting spelling, grammatical, and typographical errors. So I've mentioned this before. Whether we like this reality or not, the work that we put into the world, we are often judged by that work, right? It's a representation of the work that we put into it. So we want to make sure that it's a good representation. So we want to take pride in the work that we do. We want to take care of it and be responsible for what we're creating and show ownership of it. So one way to do that is just to make sure that it presents well, meaning that we're taking care to clean it up, so to speak. But we're demonstrating to our readers that we care about it. Because if we want our work to be taken seriously, we as the writer need to take it seriously ourselves, right? And finally, we're challenged to format our essays according to MLA guidelines. So that means 12-point size font, Times New Roman, okay, double spaced. That means top, bottom, left, right, all 4 sides need, I'm sorry, that's the line spacing, double spaced line spacing, and 1-inch margins on all 4 sides. So top, bottom, left, right, those need to be 1 inch on all 4 sides. And then for this essay, because we are going to be quoting from the website or personal interview or the social media or whatever sources we're going to use to talk about the group that we selected, we're going to need to have a works cited page for that. Okay, and so those resources for MLA, they're posted in the modules, and I'll point them out to you before or as we get underway with this essay project. So our due dates for this, our initial analysis of our selected organization, this is just sort of like an introduction just to get you started, kind of get the ideas going and a way for me to get a glimpse of what you're focusing on in your essay. So that initial analysis of the organization that you're going to focus on is due Wednesday the 24th of March. That's when we return from spring break. And that should be 250 words in length, so about a paragraph where you're addressing the prompt that is included in the module, so we'll point that out to you. Draft 1 is due Sunday the 28th of March, so that same week, just at the end of the week, 2 full pages by midnight on Canvas, just as you did with the other drafts for Major Essay Project number 1. Draft 2 is due Sunday, April 4th, and that will be 3 full pages due through Canvas by midnight. And then the polished draft, the one that I will assess, is due Sunday the 11th of April. that will be 4 full pages. Of course, do the same way as the other drafts. And then just as you did with major essay project number 1, your polished draft for that essay project, you're going to compose a cover letter. That's due the same day, where you give me an indication of what you're focused on in your essay, what you're working on, what you'd like me to address in my feedback for you. So just as with the first major essay project, all of these components must be submitted in order for this essay project to be considered complete. So if you don't submit the initial analysis, so that very first thing, then that means your project is incomplete because it's missing an element. So all 5 of these elements must be submitted. Now, if you're unable to meet a certain deadline, of course, you know my policy for deadline extensions. You need to talk to me ahead of time before the deadline in order to get an extension. I'm happy to grant them, but you have to talk to me ahead of time. Otherwise, I'm not going to accept any late work. So just make sure that you're on top of your schedule with this and you're in communication with me if you're unable to meet one of these deadlines. All right, y'all. Well, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, enjoy your endeavor in this writing project. I look forward to reading your drafts.